I used to think cheating was something loud. Arguments, secrets, obvious lies. I believed you would feel it coming. I was wrong. Our life looked normal from the outside. We had routines, inside jokes, shared plans for the future. She laughed at my stories, complained about work, asked what we should cook for dinner. Nothing felt broken. Nothing felt urgent. But slowly, things shifted in ways that were hard to explain. She started being more careful with her phone, not hiding it dramatically, just small changes. Turning the screen down, taking it with her when she left the room, smiling at messages she didn't explain. When I asked, she said it was work, a new project, a stressful coworker. I wanted to believe her, so I did. Weeks passed, maybe months. Time felt blurry because nothing obvious was happening. No late nights, no sudden trips, no dramatic excuses. That's what made it confusing. Everything was quiet. What changed first wasn't her behavior, it was my intuition. A constant feeling that something was slightly off. Like a room that looks clean but smells wrong. You can't point to the problem, but you know it's there. One evening, we were sitting on the couch, watching something neither of us was paying attention to. Her phone buzzed. She looked at it, smiled quickly, and put it face down. That smile stayed with me longer than it should have. I didn't confront her. I didn't check her phone. I just watched. I listened more closely. I noticed patterns, the same name appearing in stories, the same person mentioned casually, always with a laugh. He's so annoying. He's such an idiot. The kind of comments that mean someone occupies space in your thoughts. Still, I told myself I was imagining things. The truth didn't come from snooping or spying. It came from a mistake, hers. One night, she fell asleep before me. Her phone was charging on the nightstand. A message lit up the screen, just a preview, a name I recognized, and one sentence that didn't belong in a friendly conversation. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. From that moment on, everything I had ignored suddenly made sense. The small changes, the distance that wasn't obvious, the way she sometimes looked relieved when I left the room. The next day, I didn't accuse her. I didn't raise my voice. I asked her a simple question, one that gave her a chance to tell the truth. She didn't. She answered calmly, confidently, and wrong. That was the moment I realized something important. Cheating isn't just about betrayal. It's about watching someone choose a lie, even when honesty would hurt less. I eventually learned the full story. Not from her, from patterns, from timing, from things that didn't add up anymore once I stopped protecting her in my own head. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't confusion. It was a parallel life, quiet, controlled, carefully hidden. When I finally confronted her with what I knew, she didn't cry. She didn't deny it. She just looked tired. She said she didn't plan for it to happen, that it just did, that she never meant to hurt me, that she was waiting for the right moment to say something. The right moment never came. What stayed with me wasn't the anger. It was the realization of how normal everything had felt while I was being slowly replaced. How easy it was for her to come home, look me in the eyes, and act like nothing was wrong. Cheating doesn't always end with explosions. Sometimes it ends quietly, with two people sitting in the same room, knowing everything has already fallen apart. After that conversation, nothing ended immediately. That surprised me the most. We didn't break up that night. We didn't scream or pack bags. Life just slowed down, like we were both pretending there was still something to fix, even though we knew there was. She stayed, I stayed. We moved around each other carefully, like strangers sharing the same space. She was polite, too polite, asking if I needed anything, telling me where she was going even when I didn't ask, as if transparency could be retroactive. At night, I lay awake listening to her breathe, trying to understand when exactly I became optional. Not replaced, just unnecessary, like something that worked fine until a newer version appeared. I kept replaying moments from the past, searching for the exact point where things shifted. The day she stopped asking about my plans. The way she no longer argued during disagreements, choosing silence instead. Back then, I thought it meant maturity. Now I realized it meant detachment. She told me she felt lost, that she didn't know how it happened, that it wasn't about him, really, it was about how she felt with him. Lighter, less responsible, less tied to expectations. I wanted to ask why those expectations only applied to us, not to what she was doing behind my back. But I didn't. I was tired of asking questions that wouldn't change anything. What hurt wasn't just the betrayal. It was understanding that while I was trying to protect what we had, she was already emotionally gone. She had mourned the relationship quietly, months before I even knew it was ending. There were moments when she almost convinced me it could still work, when she laughed the way she used to, when she reached for my hand out of habit. But those moments felt borrowed, temporary, like echoes of something already finished. One evening, she told me she needed space to think. I nodded. I didn't argue. I didn't ask how much space or for how long. I already knew what that meant. When she left that night, the apartment felt different. Not empty, honest. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't waiting for the next lie or half-truth. There was no tension, just silence. Days passed, then weeks, we barely spoke. When we did, it was practical, logistics, belongings, loose ends. I never asked if she was still seeing him. I didn't need to. Some answers only reopen wounds. What stayed with me long after was how quietly everything ended. No dramatic goodbye, no final argument, just the slow realization that love doesn't always leave loudly. Sometimes it fades while you're still in the room. And the strangest part, I didn't miss her the way I thought I would. I missed the version of us I believed in, long after she stopped believing in it herself. At first, being alone felt temporary, like a pause between scenes. I kept expecting a message from her that never came. Not an apology, not a confession, just something familiar, something safe. The days began to stretch. Mornings were the hardest. Waking up without the weight of someone else's presence made everything feel unreal, like I had stepped into a life that wasn't mine yet. I started noticing how much of my routine had been built around her. The coffee mugs I bought because she liked them. The shows I kept watching out of habit. Even the silence felt shaped by her absence. Friends asked what happened. I gave short answers. It didn't work out. That was easier than explaining how something could end without a single clear moment of collapse. At night, memories came back uninvited. Not the bad ones, the ordinary ones. Grocery shopping, sitting in traffic, laughing at something unimportant. Those were the moments that hurt the most because they had felt real. And maybe they were, just not permanent. I thought about reaching out more times than I admitted. Not to fix anything, just to confirm that what we had meant something to her too. But I never did. I was afraid of the answer. Slowly, I began to see things more clearly. The way I had ignored my own discomfort. The way I had accepted emotional distance as normal. How I had convinced myself that love was supposed to feel uncertain. One evening, weeks later, I ran into her by accident. No warning. No preparation. She looked fine, happy even, comfortable in a way she hadn't been in a long time. We exchanged a few polite words. Nothing personal, nothing honest. When we said goodbye, it felt final, not dramatic, just complete. That was the moment I understood something I hadn't before. Closure doesn't always come from answers. Sometimes it comes from realizing you no longer need them. I didn't feel anger walking away. I felt clarity. the kind that arrives late but stays. What she did changed me, but it didn't break me. It forced me to pay attention to my boundaries, to my instincts, to the quiet warnings I used to ignore. I learned that betrayal doesn't always come from cruelty. Sometimes it comes from avoidance, from people who choose comfort over honesty and silence over accountability. And the truth is, if it hadn't ended the way it did, I might have stayed longer in something that was already gone. Not everything that ends is a loss. Some endings are corrections.